and welcome to the Fluid Voice. I am Ozma in the Dark, as always. Still using she, they pronouns, and still awesome. I am joined here tonight, co-host every week. I don't know why I said joined here tonight. Perfect. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, still rocking he, him pronouns.
Okay, and we have our special guest, Laura, who wanted to go into more depth with this stuff. So I brought her on. I schedule an episode, like I mentioned, being an option. How are you doing, Laura?
I'm doing very well, actually. Let me just move my microphone. It's a bit better. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm transgendered, if you haven't already guessed, and my first assessment is coming up in less than a month, and that's really exciting.
Yay!
And I'm she/her, by the way, which is great.
Yeah, and so Christy couldn't make it. It was I'll just say familial emergency is the best way to describe it, not in the who you were born as having your parents as, but the family that you make with friends and close friends. So that Christy couldn't make it, and I apologize about the fact that we're probably gonna have to go AFK a couple times because I don't pay for Zoom and I wasn't able to beat the system. I messed up in attempting to beat the system. I tried. That said, so three things. First, our topic tonight is coping strategies. Second, I just need to bring this up. I don't even know what's going on with that. Sorry, I just noticed a minor problem in terms of seeing chat. I just noticed there's a brief pause there. Yes, tomorrow is the Disability Day of Mourning. March 1st. Because of filicide, which is it's disabled people with disabilities getting killed by their family members because their family can't deal with them. I probably should bring it up again later because I didn't think too much about what else to say because this weekend has been a mess. And as always, also like, comment, and subscribe. Mention guests you'd like to have, and we can see if we can reach out to them, or topics you would like to have, or both. In the comments section, feel free to do that. Sorry, I took a bit, a bit long there, but yeah, I am bad with coping strategies. That's about as much thought as I can put into it at the moment. So you have Christy having to go this episode, and I really like Christy, and she's good at grounding me whether she knows it or not. The Peaches, a cat I've known for about 6 years, died on Friday, and I had I couldn't get to sleep until 4 a.m. this morning, and near which time I spent 20 minutes hyperventilating and saying I can't. So I got good rest after that. Sorted things out. Everything is. I'm actually feeling better today than yesterday, technically now. But yeah, I'm not the person to ask about coping strategies. Perfict and Laura, what are what are your initial thoughts about coping strategies in general?
Well, I got Asperger's, so creating coping strategies is what I need to do to survive in the real world with other people.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I didn't realize I had Asperger's until I was, more than 30 years old. I was diagnosed in 2010. And what happened was I basically made a friend, and he has Asperger's. And I went to visit one time, and his mum came to visit, and she said, I think you might have it. And so I looked up what Asperger's was, and suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, now I understand lots of issues that I've had in my life. Because when I looked at the criteria for Asperger's, I could see lots of elements that fitted really quite well. Not being able to sort of figure out people, and even things as simple as when I was a kid, I preferred adults to children because children were too flighty and unstable. They'd have one day they liked you and the next day they didn't like you for stupid, rubbish reasons. And so that just like confused me. So, but adults were more stable and more predictable, which is probably the more important one. And so, once I realized I've got it, it's kind of like, if you can imagine probably the first 25 years of my life was somewhat run on the idea of, if you can imagine a jigsaw puzzle and you're trying to figure out how it all fits together, but you haven't got a picture and the pieces don't have a picture on them either. You've just got blank white pieces. And it's like, that was what it was like trying to figure people out. And so when I discovered what Asperger's was, suddenly it's like, not only do the pieces have pictures on, which meant I was able to figure out the past. Then I had a picture for what it was, and it's like, okay, now I can see where these things fit. And of course, through my life, I'm still making the puzzle, but I'm better at understanding how the puzzle fits together.
Yes. Perfect. What are your initial thoughts just about coping strategies in general?
Well, as I said, for me.
No. I was asking Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said in general.
I just wanted Perfect to get a quick summary, and then we can start diving
the same
in.
thing. That coping strategies are something that everybody implements all through your life, or that I'm totally familiar with. Implementing coping strategies all throughout your life in order to work on being able to do things that everybody else takes for granted. I will grant that. And then there's also learning not to use coping strategies to try and hide or obfuscate your disability.
Yeah. Because that takes effort.
And it's a waste of effort. It's getting your pride involved in it. You have to give away that pride and just work on improving.
Simple solution, shrooms, ego death, no problem.
I actually have a very good story for that last bit that Perfict mentioned. So I play war games, a bit less than I used to, but so it's like,
What do you
because
mean? Oh, okay.
because it
So,
leads.
like Warhammer or
It's Warhammer 40,000. So
yeah.
there used to be a toy shop in the town where I live, and I used to go to to the War Games Club on a Saturday afternoon, and then the guy that used to run it was going to university, and so the guy who ran the shop said, "Would you take over?" And I got money off, which was fantastic. So, and I got
Oh,
paid
nice.
as well. So it's like 25% off the models I was already buying, and I got paid a pitiful amount as well. So I wouldn't say pitiful amount. It's like it was just a bonus. But the kids like to play with me because unlike playing with their friends, their ego was I want to win. And because I was better than them, it's a bit like chess. If you play with someone better than you, then it raises your game. It makes you understand and calculate things a bit better.
Yeah.
And so there was one kid, and so what you have is you have the main rule book, and then you've got a book for your army. And he hadn't read either, and the reason was because he had ADHD. And he just couldn't focus himself to basically get down and read it, which I'm sure you can understand. It's one of the difficulties people who have ADHD have.
Yeah, I skim far too much all the time. And sometimes I miss important stuff in messages. For instance, I was playing a RPG that takes place in the Warhammer 40k universe, but it's an RPG. And someone, explained quite clearly that you're going to create the characters in the session or whatnot, and we were running on Roll20. And of course, the two things I asked the person close to the time was, what do I need to make the character before this session, and what's the server name in tabletop, because we played the same system in tabletop last time. And yeah, sorry, that was a bit to some degree that was a tangent, but it was just, yes, I can relate was the point.
So so what happened was I'm playing this kid, and so each army has abilities. And when he used to play with his friends, he would ask them, what do I need to do now? Because he didn't really know the rules.
Yeah.
And because they were more interested in winning, they didn't always tell him the rules that were to his advantage. So, so what I'm playing this game with him, and what I'll do is I'll then tell them what they did wrong. So I'll let them do their move, and then I'll tell them what they did wrong. Because you tend to learn better from mistakes than you do from successes. Right, I'm not going to do that again.
Yep.
So so I explained, I said, okay, what you could have done is this, because those troops have got this ability. And he said, oh yeah, I keep forgetting about that. And he said, have you actually read all your codex yet? And he went, no. And I said, you really should. And he just sort of blase waved it away with, oh, I've got ADHD. And I kind of lost my temper, not in a sort of like me getting angry with him, more in my head. It's like, and I said, never let an inability or disability get in the way of trying. You need to find a way to get it in your head. And if necessary, read a page, go away and do something else. Come back, read that page again, go away, do something else. And over time, you'll get it, you'll remember it. Find a coping strategy with how to get this information I need to get in my head. And, basically he's like, yes, I've got a blockage. How do you find a way around that blockage? Find a coping strategy to deal with it.
Yeah, I will say about that. So, yes, to some degree I agree, but also I also know that thinking about that, and there's an extreme in terms of trying to get around stuff where so people have an attitude because I mean there is some stuff that I can do that I have found my workaround or whatever with relation to it, but it's not sometimes workarounds take effort, extra effort, and sometimes I can't do as much as the average person, and there seems to be an expectation of sometimes of, oh, you can learn a good workaround for reading that, so eventually you'll get good enough to read it in the exact same speed as X other person, to some degree disregarding the extra steps that you are going through with something. I'm not to say that you should give up on stuff, because that's also not true. I mean, some of the reason why I can have conversation is because I took advanced speech in high school, and I took sales and marketing in high school, specifically to try to communicate better, because I do like being around people, and yeah, it always feels like a bit of a line to walk, because with stuff too. But I mean, to be fair, I also had like years and years and years and years and years of like trying to be normal and do normal stuff as good as a normal person, utilizing that sort of linguistics of
ableist linguistics. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just
passing. It's passing. It's trying to pass as normal.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, at the same time, people shouldn't be, like, there are a lot of different ways to do things than the average person. And that's important to recognize, too. So I think playing around with different things to try to do what you want to do is a good thing. I guess I worry about... Okay, I have an anxiety disorder as well, so obviously I worry about the worst case scenario, and I wouldn't want to give advice that's bad, but it's one of those things where extremes on either end have the possibility to, yeah. But
yeah, and putting it in gamer terms, your anxiety stacks.
Yeah, I mean, anxiety stacks, but also... So essentially, I agree with you. I just don't necessarily know a better way to phrase it. Because I worry about phrasing it in such a way that society can pressure people.
Mm.
And I was gonna say I apologize for being really roundabout in my mental processes. Practically, I practically apologized for I don't know, for my own issues. I don't know where I was going with that. Hopefully I didn't break too much train of thought.
A little tip: I always keep a notepad so that because I can I can go off on tangents, and
I have a notepad on the computer of questions to potentially ask to continue talking about stuff. But that said, I don't know if there is some other aspect that you are passionate about talking about stuff, because you went in a good direction, and it is possible that today is not the best day for me to try to more easily continue on directions for conversations. So
I'm just looking at something in the live chat. Emily said, I know what you mean, Laura. Adaptation is vital, but there's a level of overcoming there that can still be problematic. I kind of want to elaborate that I think overcoming it is probably too strong a word that I used. It's more achieve the best you can achieve with the skills or coping strategies that you have. Because of course, as you use something, you'll get better at it. The way that I behave now, now that I know I've got Asperger's, for example, I have a really bad habit of going off on a tangent, and it's like, so I can, now that I know how I have a predilection for that, I can say, okay, you're doing that tangent thing, try and bring it back.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And another one, my friend, I'm interested in model railway stuff. And I was at a model railway show with a friend, and I bumped into someone I hadn't seen for ages. So we're talking, and like 20 minutes later, my friend nudges me and basically literally says, when someone looks at their watch for a third time, they're trying to tell you that they've got something else to do than talk to you all day. And you might think, oh my God, that sounds brutal. But I've asked my friend to do that because I don't always recognize the body language thing of someone looking at their watch, and those are
Wait, that's a thing?
Yeah, apparently it's a thing.
Oh God damn it! I still didn't know. I mean, to be fair, I was diagnosed at 31 on the autism spectrum. It's not like I've spoken with an autism spectrum related specialist. I probably should. That would probably be good, and definitely I was recommended that by the person I talked to about traumatic brain injury stuff, but that's a tangent.
But what's more is you got to learn to put that into your bag of tricks so that you can use it.
Yeah.
So that you can give somebody else the signal that these are signals which everybody has. Everybody has these bags of signals, and you don't know about them.
Yeah.
And you have to take them and you have to go, okay, I'm going to remember that and I'm going to use it. But you have to, more than just receive it, you have to use it.
Yeah, it's almost like you've got to have, and as I mentioned before, mental breaks. Just put the brake on, stop for a second and look around and say, am I doing that thing that, might irritate, annoy, upset, whatever. But also, I have to do the same thing for myself, things that might annoy me, that make my life uncomfortable. And I've got an example of one of the things. I could tell you a long story about a guy called Matt Slick. I don't know if you know who he is.
I have no idea who he is.
Oh, I know him.
Oh.
He's one of these evangelical Christians, but he's a
Calvinist.
A Calvinist, yes. And I think of Calvinism as aristocratic Christianity. That from their belief system, not everybody goes to heaven, even if they're good, and all that kind of stuff. No, only the elect get to go to heaven, and they're pre-elected before you're even born, and the universe began type stuff. So anyway, so he claims that he's got Asperger's, and I basically said no. And one of the reasons why is he said that he felt pain when touched. And if you look at the criteria, for Asperger's, it will say, feels uncomfortable when touched. And I think he's read that and sort of thought, comfort, pain, that's the kind of level he was thinking of. But for me, an example, I got a really good friend, went up to visit her in Scotland, and, it was only the second time she'd ever met me. And so she, she's only small, she's only 5 foot nothing, so she's like this high on me. So she stood on a little wall and she's giving me a hug. Now for me, I can do hugs, but for me, hugs are kind of like, there's that silly 3-second rule about dropping food on the floor and eating it, as long as it's not hairy. After 3 seconds, my brain starts whirring and gets uncomfortable, because it's basically going, okay, this person likes me a lot and I like them too, but now they're like creeping me out, and it's like, what do we do? Obviously they like me, I like them, but how do I reciprocate the kind of, emotion that they're giving here? And so I end up like patting them on the back, like they're there. And it's, and my mind's racing and I'm like, oh my gosh, my brain's just whirling with, how do I reciprocate this thing?
Yeah.
That's the comfort, that's the discomfort. It's not a physiological one, it's a neurological discomfort.
Yeah.
So a quick hug, 1, 2, 3, it's fine. But I'm like one of those cats that don't like to be held. You pick it up and you stroke it and it's fine for 3 seconds. Then after that, it's like, right, I want to get down there. And it ends up wriggling and jumping off you.
Yeah, no, it's, for me, it's slightly different. Hugs were worse. For me before HRT, because I just so I can deal with light hugs now, significantly less so before. That made me uncomfortable. Tight hugs I'm more comfortable with, but I realize there's social uncomfortable aspects to that. So I'm like, it's not something I can ask for in society easily. So no, it's interesting, the sort of things. I don't know if you guys have if either of you have hypersensitivity to sound ever.
Don't like too many noisy things, but generally not. Light is a little bit different. Going past something where there's railings and the sun is going through and it's like flashing, or a fluorescent tube that's like, buzzing. That gives me headaches. I hate that. Awful.
It's different. So sound is a big thing for me, depending on the sound. And depending on if I've already ended up in a loop. And the more tired I get, the more likely it's going to bother me. So vacuum cleaners, if someone else is vacuuming, I need to be somewhere else. I am like those cats. I'm like the cats that run away from vacuum cleaners. Legitimate a thing, and definitely my emotional not good state related to noise from the TV and my roommates. And if there's no way for me to step away from it, to give myself time to calm down. Sorry, I just got the 10-minute warning because the free aspect. And that fits with the time. Anyways, if I can't step away from that long enough to calm down or whatnot, or if I need more sleep, there are things that living with roommates is just really hard to deal with, or I absolutely can't deal with, because like I said, if I end up in an emotional loop, my hypersensitivity increases. So like so then earplugs start bothering me, so then that makes it even more difficult to deal with sound, because I can't deal with the feeling of earplugs in my ears. And then the sound becomes more obvious, and Zavaris, who's been on the channel, roommate of mine, and like both my roommates stay up super late, and I work best if I sleep at night and I'm awake during the day. You know, he can get excited about stuff and make, you know, sudden, unexpected loud noises. And not knowing when those will hit again. Like I said, I spent about, I'm assuming 10 to 20 minutes. I don't know the time exactly. It felt like forever. Crying and saying I can't, while curled up in a ball on my bed. But like, it was a while, and that became the focus. So eventually I calmed down, and then I could deal with everything, and then I fell asleep. Because I was really exhausted from the hyperventilating and Lovely saying I can't. Also partially because I, like I said, it was around 4 in the morning, so I knew it would. I also knew that would be bad and upsetting to other people if I screamed "shut the fuck up" as loud as I could after opening my door to scream that throughout the apartment. And I know I'm not like a loud talker, but yes, I can get super loud. Given the right circumstances.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just coping strategies are really helpful for like preventing getting into that loop. Because if I get in that loop, I am not in a state where I can think enough to do coping strategies. That's just not like a realistic thing. If it gets bad enough, and it like also I obviously know I mostly have control over myself, and I was trying to message them, and they didn't help in the best way. But yeah, and that.
Okay, well, the thing that I notice, and that I, when you have coping strategies, like I suffer from a form of dyslexia, dysgraphia, where I have difficulty outputting spelling. It's not the same as reading, and it's a part of my brain that it's hard to work, it's hard to make it do it, and it becomes tiring. Making it do it becomes, it makes the activity tiring for me. I've developed a lot of coping strategies, and then I'm passing for normal. And then as soon as I become invested in the idea that people aren't able to tell that I'm having this problem when communicating with them through text, then my strategies are working against me. all those good things I've learned are now non-productive, anti-productive things. That's what I'm saying. You have to let go of the pride and go, doesn't matter. It's not going to get in the way of their being able to listen to what I have to say. If this comes out or comes up, I need to just proceed. And that's how you get better at it. And all those good things. And I'm wondering, and we'll have to hit that after the break, I guess. Does any of that relate to coping strategies that have to do with more particularly than disabled, but dealing with the LGBTQ community?
I don't even think it needs to go as far as that. I mean, I think all of us, everybody, including, normative people, effectively, that we all have little things, coping strategies that we create. For example, you might have one friend who has a real problem with the R word. That's a triggering thing for them. They get upset by that. Someone else won't. For example, I've got a friend. I'll just use a different analogy. I've got a friend who's religious. I'm not religious. I'm an atheist, and I've got good justifications. Now, I could quite easily offend them by giving them my justification and the reason why I think their belief system is silly. But do I need to? Chatting to a friend, on the phone a few hours ago, and they're religious, and it's like, well, our relationship is largely based upon model railway stuff, and that's what we often mainly talk about. Do I really need to tell that person, ridicule their belief effectively? Because that might be the perception they have, that you're just like, you're just dismissing what I believe, and this is something that is a big part of me. So I think
it doesn't
these
help
are
that
normal
there are
things.
atheists that do that, by the way.
It just comes down to having a little sort of thought in the back of your head, which is, do I need to do this? Do I need to say something which will upset someone, or should I not?
Well, I was going to get into something else, but we are
Close
doing
to
that, so I'm
time.
going to quick and no, there's still enough time. I need to I need to cut this as close as possible. But I lost my train of thought while saying that. Sometimes it's hard to tell what people what will upset people in terms of saying stuff, and that can sometimes make that in general it leaves the potential for conversation to become more concerning.
True.
Okay, now that's less than a minute. I'm just going to quick AFK and restart this. I'm unlike usual. I'm not I'm not stopping sound of talking, so you can still hear me talk for some reason. I say that like it's a good thing. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. Perfict will be here in a second. Um, it generally takes a bit longer. Yeah. By the way, sorry about technical stuff. I don't know where I'm getting with conversation points. My mind is a mess.
Well, I was saying about how do I need to offend someone? And the thing is, you actually you were saying in before how do you know when something's going to offend someone? And what you can have is you can sort of have a creeping strategy effectively. I know it sounds really premeditated in that regard, but what I mean is, you learn what the rules are with someone in a sort of creeping thing, and then you say something, and maybe you see their face go something like that. That's a sign that, okay, there's the line on that subject, kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, and I'm sure to some degree I probably did, although a long point in my life was me not knowing what to say, so talking about incredibly superficial stuff and making it almost impossible for me to have a close friendship with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly, being closeted trans probably didn't help with that. But
I can imagine the hard part about that is effectively you're trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah. And so for me, and once again, maybe I've said this before on this show, or maybe I haven't, and some of this might relate to not always fitting into the binary, and I mean, like, sometimes my personality gets awful close to butch lesbian type personality, which apparently is a personality type. I don't think it's necessarily that specific, but yeah, so I while I'm gray asexual, I do like sensual stuff, like cuddling and all that stuff, and it's not like I don't like, it's not as if I don't like dislike the idea of sexual stuff, but like when it comes to thinking about that stuff realistically, that's another story. So like, horny in high school, and I was very much I grew up seeing myself as a straight guy because I'm not sexually attracted. Sorry, cisgender men are a major turnoff for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have sex aversion to cisgender men. So it just messed me up, and I felt like I was just like a really creepy dude was how I saw myself, because I was fantasizing when I was during times in which I'm horny, I was fantasizing the idea of having sex with a woman as a woman, so there's never any guys, and then if it's just like me seeing myself as a creepy guy who's obsessed with watching lesbians have sex, was my general attitude for that, which, by the way, I don't like the idea of watching anyone have sex. That's weird.
I've never watched porn. Not interested.
Yeah, see, I have like quite a bit of aesthetic attraction. Like, do have some mild fetish type stuff relating to my personality, but not fetish in the sense of relating directly to sex. Because sex just seems like an extreme thing. That doesn't apply most of the time if I'm horny.
Yeah, I'm asexual myself, but it's, you know, similar. I'm perfectly happy with the idea of kissing and cuddling and things like that. The penetration thing, just no, not really my thing.
Yeah.
So probably oral would be about the best. I might, you know, be interested in that. You know, but to be honest, I don't really talk about sex very often. It's not really something that, you know, I got much more interesting things to think about, so to speak.
The only reason I brought that up is because I was. Wait, why did I bring that up? I forgot why I brought that up. It was something relating to. It was just relating to past and the ways in which I beat myself up. I feel like there's probably a more important aspect of the topic. Oh, finding myself. So there was a lot of things that just made it difficult to find myself. There's stuff I didn't know about, because obviously I didn't know about asexuality or and the spectrum that is that, and I didn't know about autism spectrum, and I didn't know about the idea of being transgender outside of an episode of Just Shoot Me and the book, I forgot the name of the book. There's a book I talk about, and it's got like ex-football player trans woman, and it's very like, at the very least in the book, when it comes to portraying trans stuff, it's very not good. The World According to Garp. The book, I've heard that apparently in the movie does a much better job of things, but the author did not do a good job of things. So it was very much... Transitioning always felt like a complete fantasy. Speaking of which, I also fantasized about the Ranma and Half manga being real.
You know, it's funny you say a fantasy. That was I denied myself my transition for 18 years for pretty much that reason. So just so people know what's about for me. So when I was 7, I took part in a maypole dance, and you know, again, didn't know I had Asperger's at the time, but now you know, it makes sense. So what happened was there were 8 pairs of kids in, you know, and you know, you had costumes. So the boys wore white trousers and a gingham shirt. And the girls wore these like pretty little gingham dresses, you know, Peter Pan collar, gathered skirt, that kind of thing, puff sleeves. And I was struggling with it because when you're 7, that's where you know, sort of boys go, ugh, girls, and you know, dancing. Oh, that's a girls thing, and I rather like dancing. I quite, you know, enjoyed the, you know, the formality and the structure of going in and out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but I was struggling with it because, you know, I'm sort of holding the ribbon and I'm, you know, I was kind of like scowling and, you know, concentrating because I didn't want to get it wrong, because that would, you know, kind of show me up. But also, everybody, it would screw everybody else up. It's well, oh, you've gone the wrong way, and then next thing you know, you get a tangle or something and it's not neat and so on. So all these things are running through my head. My dance partner, she was happy and smiling and bouncing and, she was just like in the zone. Yeah. And I just found myself thinking, I wish I was a girl, because then I wouldn't have to, worry about, I could be like that instead of being like me. This weird social expectation of girls and dancing as a girl's thing, I wouldn't have to worry about those sorts of things. So as I got older, one of the problems we had in the UK was the knee-jerk reaction to the AIDS crisis was something we had called Section 28 of one of the laws, and it basically forbid any teachers to basically mention anything to promote homosexuality. So they weren't allowed to teach anything about LGBT stuff. They might as well don't exist. And so until I got on the internet when I was 25, my concept of what transgender people was a prostitute on a Dirty Harry movie, or Rocky Horror Picture Show, or a drag queen. Well, that wasn't anything like me.
Yeah.
So it made no sense. And it was only when I got online, it's like, that's what they are. That's what I am. But unfortunately, the social stigma was, I can't transition because what will my mum think? What will the family think? What will neighbors and strangers and colleagues and things like that think? And there were too many negatives. So I basically denied myself. And I used to go to these private gatherings. And when the private gatherings, I had a disagreement with a couple of people, and it's like, I'm not going back there. I can't do that anymore. And that's when I needed the new avenue of going out in the real world. And, it's like when I started doing it, it's like, well, why did I deny myself for this long? I always thought about transitioning, but there just were too many negative things. And what really did it in the end was, the great debate, community type stuff. One of the people in it, a lesbian Catholic lady from San Francisco area, she died. And before she died, like a couple of years before she died, I told her about me. And my mum doesn't like this. She disowned me, nearly 2 years ago now. Because I wanted to go down and give her a Mother's Day present as a guy. Well, I told my friend that, about me being trans and stuff. And I said to her one day, I said, I wish my mum accepted me for who I am, but she doesn't. And then she said, I'll be your mum then if you like, kind of thing. And it was a lovely thing. And then what happened was in 2018, she died. She was only 67. And it absolutely, it just devastated me because, unlike everybody else in the community who'd lost a good close friend or whatever, I'd lost my cyber mum, as it were. Yeah. And so, and it was her death that made me basically say, life is short. Why are you letting all these other people dictate your future because you're worried you're trying to make them comfortable while I was uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And as soon as I got to that point, it's like, you know what, it's right. Why am I putting everybody else's happiness before my own? I need to put my happiness first. And that decision, that just made it work.
I
apologize for talking a long time on that.
Well, I mean, for one thing, you should be talking a lot because you're the guest, and we worry, in general, in terms of this show, me, Christy, less so Perfict, because Perfict doesn't talk as much, and then usually comes up with something actually good to say, like very quality thing to say. But we sometimes worry about talking over guests too much. That said, one of the things I still want to ask it is, so what are some coping strategies for when you can't, when you're on a waiting list to get any sort of gender affirming stuff? Because I know it's bad in the UK, and I know they've got forever lists, and I definitely didn't know how to cope with trying to find a way to transition, and people are in a wide variety of situations in terms of what they can do without risking putting themselves in a life or death situation. I mean, admittedly, that stuff always gets more complicated when your family controls your life and you don't know how to get out of it. But like, let's say your family's accepting for the most part or whatever, but like there, I mean, there is always going to be a possibility of someone being mean to you, and it's scary. And I guess I never really had a coping strategy. My coping strategy was, it was almost wait until I pass.
Yeah.
Which isn't a real coping strategy.
I mean, fortunately for me, I mean, playing the war games, I've been painting for a long time, and doing makeup's a lot like painting, really. You know, you have highlighter and you know, different paints that do different jobs. If you're doing a mouth, you've got, you know, lips and so on. But you said about people being mean. So I created a really good coping strategy to deal with the negative stuff that you can face on the street. And I'll give you giving some examples. So there is the benign stuff that people don't even realize they do. When you're walking through a mall or something like that, you're constantly looking around. You don't even realize you're doing it. It's subconscious. You know, you just sort of look at something, you know, in these quick bursts. Because what you're doing is you're assessing what's happening around me. There's someone walking from the left to the right in front of you. Do you, if, you know, are we going to bump into each other? Well, to avoid bumping each other, do you accelerate or slow down? Or do you move left a bit or right a bit so that you don't bump into each other? So, you know, that kind of thing. So what will happen is I'll be walking and someone will look at me and their eyes kind of do the quick look. And then you almost see it like buffering in their eyes or in the mind or something. And then they take a second look because it's like, wait a minute, someone didn't look right there. And then they take the second look, and that's when they get the silly grin or the knowing nod. Ah, that's why she's so tall, because I'm 6'4". I'm bigger than most men, let alone most women. So that's a benign one. Another one will be there's like a couple of guys, you know, a couple of lads or whatever, like teenagers or whatever, and one nudges the other. Look, you know. Or you'll get a group of people who go by, and then you'll hear, "Did you see that?" And then laughter, you know.
Yeah.
And these are like, you know, tiny. It's like being pecked to death by ducks. You know, in its own, each, you know, peck doesn't really do anything, but it's enough, you know, that it leaves a mental bruise. The worst one I've had is I suppose you could maybe trailer trash might be the best analogy, a chavvy family. And they go by, and one of the girls, she goes, "Oh, there's another she, he," loudly as I go by. And I sort of turn with the sort of, you know, really face. and their little kid, who's probably about 5 or so, shouts, "You're a man!" Yeah, where do you think he learned it from? And really and that's what I call the Brexit effect. Trump effect, same thing. The people who are racist, 10 years ago, if you had a friend who said something racist, you'd sort of turn your head and go, really? And they'd be shamed into silence. But then suddenly we have a referendum or Trump comes in or whatever, and now the racist people think, well, I can now tell these black people or Hispanic people they should F off back home. And because they got away with it, the homophobes think they can get away with it, and transphobes, and so on. So,
Emily brought up the term microaggressions. Is like
right. Yeah.
So that's not very micro, but okay, yeah.
Well, that one was more macro, but some of the other ones were microaggressions.
Anyway, so I created a coping strategy to deal with that stuff, because if you sort of absorb all the negative stuff, it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
And so I basically created a points system. Now, I'm not literally counting points, like calories or something. It's conceptual. So if you can imagine, I'm walking down the street and someone's walking towards me. She looks at me, I smile, she smiles back. There's a point. I go to one of the makeup cosmetic places in Manchester or my local town or whatever. Oh, your eye makeup's looking nice today, Laura. Well, they're experts. There's a couple 100 points. My friend Jackie in California, she's like a puppy. You want to squeeze her and hug her because she's just a wonderful, wonderful person. I post a picture. Oh, Laura, you look stunning today. Well, that's like 500 points of gush right there. And then the last one, my bank. One of the ladies behind the desk, she'd started calling me Laura. Well, she never used to call me my guy name, so she was obviously trying to make me feel comfortable. So I said, thank you for that. And she went, oh, you're quite welcome, dear. You're looking nice today. And I said, oh, well, I'm not too bad at makeup and clothes and stuff. And she went, no, you look beautiful. You tell a man he's handsome. You tell a woman she's beautiful. To tell a trans woman she's beautiful, that means a lot. So that was like 1,000 points that day. So if you can imagine, I got 8,000 points of positive energy, and I get there's another she, he loudly. I might lose a couple 100 points because I feel shitty, but I can take an objective step back and say, yeah, but look, you got 7,800 points of positive energy. The world is better than it is bad. And that's how I get my head around it.
That fits right in with what I was going to be saying, which is so many people who I've talked to who have transitioned have said they waited, they delayed, they futzed around, because they kept saying, no one will accept me as I see myself. Yeah. They aren't going to do it. They won't do it. They'll refuse to do it. And that they didn't take into account that they were right. There were people who would be like that, but there were lots of people who would accept them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that they just had not realized that there was a world of people who would accept them, who were other people, and there were people who they didn't think would accept them who would. And that they just had to take the step and go in.
Yeah, I mean, an example is my doctors. So this is a wonderful story. In fact, I decided I was going to transition. Didn't decide I was transgendered. I just decided I'm going to live my life the way I want to. I really need to live it. And so December in 2018, I went to my doctor and asked him to refer me to a gender identity clinic. In January, I found a lump on my left breast. And I thought, okay, well, go to doctors because because I've got no hormones yet. So even without hormones, I'm, basically underneath, I'm still a guy in terms of physiology. And so it's like, yep, go to doctors because even guys can get breast cancer. So I went to my doctors and I was treated like a female patient, because one of the things that we have here is there's been a few instances of doctors touching women inappropriately. And there's also been a few cases of women accusing doctors of touching them inappropriately, falsely. And so to protect both parties, when they examine women, they've got a chaperone system where they get the nurse to come in and observe, to basically monitor, make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen. In addition, my doctor is an Asian chap from Pakistan, and obviously, being Muslim, sometimes they, don't like things like being transgendered or whatever. I know a transgender person who I encouraged them to go to a different doctor because their doctor was Hindu and didn't like it, and refused to refer them and wanted them to get a mental health check first, and just tried to create all these barriers. And I said, look, you don't have to accept that. Get on a train, go to the main city near where you live, get yourself a new doctor, even if you've got to travel to do it. Because that's better than being dealt with, with this guy who doesn't have your best interests at heart. He's got his interest at heart. So, but my doctor, perfectly fine, fantastic. Whatever his belief system is, he doesn't let it get in the way of his treatment of me. And to the point that I saw him going out of the surgery when I went to go and sort something out. And I said, thanks for what you're doing. And he remembered my name. So, not just some faceless patient that, their name is, what was it on the screen? So he remembers me. And so when I get through the gender identity clinic system in a few months' time, not very long at all, I have no doubt that when they recommend my doctor prescribe hormones, I will have my doctor prescribing hormones. Not a problem at all.
Yeah.
But I forgot where I was going. It doesn't really matter.
Well, I mean, we were talking about coping strategies, and I had brought up transitioning, and then you had mentioned something about doctors. Maybe you were just trying to say talk about the important recommendation of like going to other doctors if the doctor is not going to follow the general recommendations of the experts about this.
Yeah. By the way, I mentioned I found a lump. Turns out it was nothing. Turns out that a 1 in 1,000 reaction to a medication that I'm taking causes breast growth sometimes, which is fantastic for me.
Yeah.
If a guy had this, it'd be, oh my gosh, this is awful. How terrible. Me, I'm like, yes. Ironically, it's almost as if my body is saying, I know you're going to be waiting a long time for hormones. I'll get started without them.
There you go.
Lucky.
Yeah, I know. I'm in about halfway to an A cup now.
Yeah, no, I mean, whatever. I say lucky. You've got like a terrible system for transitioning.
The problem we have in the UK is that the NHS is free to the point of use, but unfortunately, they have limits to what they can offer, which keeps the cost down. They can buy in bulk, which means that medication's cheaper and so on. But the NHS is brilliant at almost everything, except for there's a few things that they are really rubbish on, and 2 of those things are mental health. So if you go to your doctor about having a depression problem, whatever, they'll go and find a piece of paper which has a list of charities that help people. And the only reason the charities exist to do that is because the NHS doesn't. Because, and it's like, yeah, take these antidepressants. Because, I studied psychology at college, and one of the things I learned is therapy is expensive, pills are cheap.
Depression is based on a Valium deficiency.
Yeah. Now, and the other one is TransCare. And just to give you an idea, So as I mentioned, December 25th, 2018, I asked my doctor to refer me to a general identity clinic. By the end of the month, I was. I had my screening call with them in the February of 2019. And in that, and the screening call is, they ask about certain health things, but they also ask, they also want to, how can we help you kind of thing? What are your goals? And one of the problems that we have is you have people who aren't really sure. They've just found out about it. They're still questioning it. And, we'll just have an hour that they take on a session talking to someone is an hour that someone else could be using. And so it's like, okay, well, have a think about it. We'll send you some information. Have a think about it. If you still need some help, get in contact. So, so what happened was my screening call, I asked how long it would be for the first assessment. So the system is you get your first assessment, then you get your second assessment. On the second assessment, that's usually when they say, yes, you've got gender dysphoria, and yes, I'm going to recommend that you take hormones. So first assessment, 18 months time. And who knows between then to the second assessment? Well, that was in February 2019. By the autumn, it had jumped to 27 months. And by December, it had gone to November, sorry. So, but by November, it had jumped to 29 to 30 months. And the reason is because the Leeds General Identity Clinic has a budget for 27 people a month, but they've got over 100 referrals a month. So if we look at it from a COVID point of view, imagine a store, and they only can, thanks to social distancing, they figure that they can only get 27 people in the store an hour, and you've got over 100 people joining the queue an hour. Yeah. You can imagine it's going to back up. So now they've dropped that. How long is it going to be for the first assessment? Now they just tell you we are taking people from October 2017, which would mean I'd still have a year. But fortunately, there's a new pilot. There's 3 pilots, transgender clinics going on, and they're doing things from a slightly different position, because the normal general identity clinic system is effectively you've got to justify why you think they should help you.
Yeah.
Whereas these new ones are how can we help you achieve your goals? What are your goals? How can we help you achieve them? Do you need voice coaching? Yep. Okay, we'll get a reference. We'll get something set up about that kind of thing. Laser hair removal, yeah, but that tends to happen after the second appointment because it's like a video game. You get to the second appointment, you get hormones, you get laser hair removal, voice coaching, and other things.
Nice. I still need to figure out how to get free laser hair removal. I heard that there's a way, but it's also like a place that's harder to get to, further away, outside the city, and also COVID has slowed everything down. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah. So the new one is much, much better. So 4 weeks ago on Monday, this coming Monday, I had a phone call from this new Indigo Manchester clinic, and they was basically saying, can we take you off Leeds books and put them on ours? Because they only cover Manchester instead of the entire north.
Yeah.
And Manchester's the 3rd biggest city in the country. So I was like, yes, fine. I mean, and I was number 4 on the list of people that have been waiting the longest. They only opened in December. So they've obviously been working through the list. And by the time she got to me, I was the 4th highest waiting person. And she'd contacted the other people that day as well. So, right. I'll contact you in soon to get you a date for your first assessment. Last week, I got a phone call. Sorry, a week later, I had my screening call. And a week and a half later, I had the call saying, right, we want to get you a date. What dates are available? We've got, and gave about 3 or 4. And I went for the first one.
Yeah.
Because the sooner the better.
Yeah.
No point in putting it off for an extra 2 days. And so I have my first assessment booked for the 25th of March. Not March next year, this year. And that's why it's so exciting, because it's this year, not a year and a half into the future.
That's so awesome. That's less than a month.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
it does seem like the second system you were describing addresses something I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just earlier in the day, which was I understand people's concerns with, and I have concerns with that if transitioning is too, and I think it can be too readily available, then you can have people who are confused. The world is filled with confused and desperate people. Mm-hmm. And a person could see somebody else successfully enter into transition and become a much happier, brighter person and I want that. And they want to solve their problems. And then they're using transition to try and solve problems. It's not addressing their problem. It's just they're using it.
Yeah.
And that you don't want people to be able to do that. But you also don't want people to have to jump through hoops to get something which they just need. And this shouldn't be something they have to, work for.
When it comes to young people, I think roughly 25, I think, is a reasonable point. Those are people that probably, they're still developing as a person. So I think they would need more guidance. But me, I'm 47 years old. I'm a grown-up. And I can make decisions for myself, even if they're bad ones. And you just have to, it's basically, if you make a mistake, there's going to be consequences. And, these are things you have to consider seriously.
Well,
when you
but
get
it did
older,
sound like the program you were describing was providing just that, guidance, which is exactly the word I was looking for earlier, but didn't find in my head.
Yeah.
The guidance, somebody to guide you through it.
Obviously, just to be clear, people who are young who end up on hormone blockers, most of them have been, or I think all of them, for the most part, have to go through a decent amount of screening by experts for that situation. And obviously, some people it's really obvious. Mm-hmm. The trans stuff, and it just obviously you want to find the good mix of system that's going to cause the least harm.
Yeah.
And because obviously, puberty was bad for me. But that being said, I don't even know if I would have, even if puberty blockers was known by me, I don't know if I would necessarily think to. I mean, it's hard to tell with hypothetical situations. Yeah. I just know. I mean, hitting puberty was a large part of the reason for my first time being suicidal. Because I've got a lot of dysphoria about the physical end of things.
I just want to qualify that when I said up to 25, I'm largely talking about adults now.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like 18 to 25, because we're classed as adults. You can go out and buy a drink at 18 here. But again, those are just numbers, because of course, not everybody develops at the same rate. I was still quite immature in my head when I was like 19, 20. So, and again, it was Asperger's, feeling my way around the rules and the social norms and how everything is supposed to work. But so when it comes to effectively, I'm a grown-up. I can make decisions about myself. Informed consent should be a thing. It's for everything else.
Yeah.
But for some reason, no, I need to get permission to transition.
Yeah.
But this new system, a lot less than that. And the wonderful thing is, like I say, I've got a date.
Oops. Thought I had a second more than I did. I'm sorry about that. Hold on, I'm doing this as quick as I can. Perfict will be here as soon as he gets the code in. Sorry about that. I got some. This is a weird day that it's not going to work like this. Generally, I thought there was enough time for me to let you finish your statement, and then I was going to say something, but
and I kept talking too long again.
Well, I misjudged the time too.
Yeah. Fortunately, I wrote down what I was saying, so I can jump straight into it.
Oh, nice.
So I've had I've got the date for my first assessment, and when I was, I asked about the date. I asked, so how long is it going to be for the second assessment, which is, the magic hormones one?
Yeah.
And I was told 4 to 6 weeks after, which is like, not who knows how long. Remember, I'd be waiting another year for the first assessment, and the second assessment, again, who knows how long it'll be. Could be a year, could be 18 months, who knows. No, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks, so this summer, I should be on hormones.
Yay!
And it's so exciting, but it's also, because I've been waiting for so long, it also feels sudden as well, kind of daunting. And my best analogy for it is, when you got to phone up, the electricity company or, the bank or whoever, Social Security or whatever, they've only got 3 people working, and so you just sat on a waiting, you just sat listening to music, and every now and again it'll pause and say, we value your custom, we'll be with you as soon as someone is available. And it's like, yeah, I haven't heard that 48 times already. And then when suddenly someone answers, it's like, oh my gosh, they answered, what do I do now? What was I going to say? What was I thinking of? You've got to kind of collect your thoughts ready to do the thing that you wanted to talk to them about. And that's how it feels. It's like, oh my gosh, this is happening so quickly. It's what I want, but it's sudden. because based upon what I've been waiting for a year, or sorry, for
Yeah.
2 years.
And I mean, I guess so. Obviously, uh, uh, the bottom surgery was delayed a bunch, and I've delayed sorting stuff out until after COVID because COVID is just making everything more difficult with that, and I need to deal with housing and getting to different place and um, stuff like that, and I need to hound the disability, the agency helping me with disability and stuff a bunch more, and a lot of other stuff. But I have a wide frame. At least it seems wide to me, or whatnot, and I didn't have much breast development after years and years of hormones, and I realize everyone's different, and so I was like, well, I mean, it's covered by insurance. So why not go for breast augmentation surgery as well, so at least I can do something, and at the very least it'll decrease the chance of me getting referred to as a dude, because people look, if there was definitely going to be a deciding factor with people seeing me if they were on the fence, it would be boobs. Because people, men especially, or the average man especially, straight men, pay attention to boobs a lot.
The thing I worry about listening to that is, do you want boobs for you, or do you want boobs because you don't want to be hassled? Because those aren't the same thing.
I realize those aren't the same thing. So, both. Now, when it comes to, it was just, it's one of those things where it's not on a level of importance. It's not on the same level of importance as it, or it's on a higher level of importance as it would, than it would be if I was if society was different. So I can't deny that society is a factor. However, on the other hand, I would still be doing, regardless, even when it comes to societal things, I would still be doing it for me, because that is less worry. But that being said, I also didn't like it not feeling obvious that I had boobs. That said, I was like, okay, well, as long as I'm going for the surgery, I might as well go for the biggest size I can. Now, that said, it was also largely the fact that that was the most obvious, and also, to some degree, I wanted that anyways. There's elements of stuff I want, because I totally understand the reasoning if you're doing something like this for your own comfort, to go with the smallest size possible that will retain your comfort.
For me, I'd be quite happy with a C cup size. That would be proportionate to my height and weight. I'm a little bit overweight, so that would be aesthetically reasonable. Because if I with my build, it would be unlikely for me to be an A cup.
Yeah.
but more likely to be a C or a D. But I really don't want to be a D. That just like seems huge to me. But one of my first sort of elements of of euphoria was, I had a bra fitting, which was great, treating like a female there as well. And I've got some C cup chicken fillets, and when I sort of put that on and a dress and sort of looks at myself sideways, it's like that looks good, that works.
Yeah.
That fits my my sort of mental picture of what I want to be like just nicely. So that was like excellent, happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is ultimately the most important thing, is just people finding comfort and finding what's important to them, and what can help, but also without feeling forced by society. Which I agree with your point there, and I honestly really wanted to try to figure a different way out with breast size, but like I've been on hormones for 4 years, and like nothing has changed under any of the elements, and I don't, and I mean, I do on some level like the idea of having breasts the size I do, so like on some level it's not, I'm happy with it. They didn't need to be this big, but I'm happy, but because I could, I went for it. It's like, as long as I'm going through it, a couple sizes lower in terms of, for the purposes of breast augmentation, would have been fine. I would have still been happy with it. But I could go. See, this is the American thing. Bigger is better is totally the American way to go. So of course I went for bigger. No,
I think my life is easier for me than it might be for you, because you're non-binary, aren't you?
Yeah. So like half the time I'm agender, but not just that. Like there are elements. So I am a weird mix of, because I mean there is feminine stuff I like, and there's but I mean I obviously like gaming, and I like a decent amount of stereotypical masculine stuff, and I like the idea of being able to be able to look. I like martial arts stuff, so there is like physical activity.
But girls
stuff.
do that as well.
Well, yeah, I know girls do that as well, but
and girls do play games.
With society, it just made it more frustrating, because with transitioning, so much of transitioning for such a long time has been you have to be a feminine, girly woman to be able to transition. And you, or at the very least, you had to pretend to be a feminine, girly gingham woman. And not to say that I don't have, not to say that there aren't girly aspects of my personality, not to say that masculine or feminine aspects relates to, it's a complicated thing, because like, so when it comes to HRT, I only care about physical dysphoria or euphoria or whatever. But that's obviously the physical doesn't necessarily always relate to gender, and sometimes I feel totally agender, and sometimes I feel real girly, and both can be wanting to do the exact same thing.
Mm.
I can not feeling really girly, feeling like a woman, and doing martial arts is. I can feel like a woman and want to do martial arts, and I can feel agender and want to do martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there are a lot of things where I don't know. There was a lot of. I feel like there's a lot of expectation for a long period of time
There is,
with transitioning, and it also didn't help that my parents didn't care about gender norms, so they let me play with dolls, they let me wear makeup. I did play around with makeup as a kid, and I did play with Barbie dolls. I did play various games with my sisters, and my sisters played video games, and it's just my parents did not. I have really nice parents. I that is one area in which I am super privileged, considering I was born in 1985, and for my parents to, even though they didn't always deal with me transitioning to the best, and they were not good at dealing with the autism spectrum stuff at all. They did try to be allies of LGBT stuff, and it wasn't LGB and sometimes T. Like it was for far too many people. Like my characters, my parents, did care about that stuff. I mean, they're also socialists who converted to Judaism from Christianity. My parents are not average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when it came to, for me, I think life is a lot easier because, you know, it's quite obvious I'm girly. You know, it's blatant. And the things that I wear, you know, I mean, would you mind me screen sharing a couple of pictures for you? Because that illustrates it.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. It default doesn't do screen share. There we go.
So, I bought a new bike. I've always ridden a bike, and it's a great way to get around the city. Yeah. And so,
That's a cute bike, by the way.
It is. It's the cutest bike, and the thing is,
it's adorable.
I didn't go out of my way to buy a pink bike. I needed something that was a large size because I'm 6'4". I needed something that had gears because most Amsterdam-style bikes don't, because Amsterdam is flat and the Netherlands is flat, whereas Manchester isn't. And I needed something that didn't cost £400, like most of the bikes of that style do. And this was £180 from Argos. And it's like, but it's pink, and it's like, and my issue was, I don't want to be a parody of what a guy thinks girls look like, if that won't make sense.
Yeah, but the chain guard and the fenders and everything, that's what I'm saying. It just is perfect. It's adorable.
Yeah. But
I know what you mean, because you're like, it's the thinking one step even further, where you're just like, well, what if people see me as just playing a game or whatever, and just like, regardless of what you actually want, you're like, I need to avoid other people thinking, like, it's almost like conspiracy theory mental steps where you're just like, I will, if they see me, they might see me and recognize that I was trans while riding a bike, and not only that, they might see that, recognize I'm trans, see me as a guy, and then think I am just pretending to
That you're
like
LARPing.
this stuff based off of gender stereotypes. But like that is always like so many steps or whatnot, because like most people, I'm sure if people are riding past them with a bike, they're more focused on not getting hit by the bike.
Yeah. But when it came to it, I struggled with it because, if we can imagine just women, because if you imagine you've got the spectrum, so you've got blue and pink. Let's just go to,
blue being the feminine and
so
pink being the masculine as the 1900s.
Yeah, so if you can imagine having like the blend, which goes from pink through kind of like a mauve to pink, okay? And, well, tomboys would be quite far on the blue side of things.
Yeah.
And girly girls would be on the pink side of things, if we want to use that kind of spectrum.
Yeah.
Well, where do you fit? Where do women fit? Well, is there some reason that because I'm trans, I can't be over here on the more girly side?
Yeah.
Of course not. Women can be girly. Why can't I? There's no reason. And so I struggled with that for a while. And, and since then, I've gone and kind of added a little bit of detail. I put flowers on it because if I'm going to be girly, well, fuck it. I'm going to go all the way.
Yeah, and that just makes it so much more adorable.
And it does. And it's what the amount of women who say, "Oh my God, I love your bike. It's so cute."
It is so cute.
Yeah. And I've embraced it.
That bike gives me warm, happy feelings. That is.
It does.
The
and it
best
does for me every
bike
time
ever.
It does for me every time I ride it as well. But as well as that, so on Twitter, so Manchester is trying to sort of revitalize the city and put cycling lanes everywhere. Basically too much congestion. Let's get lots of people riding bicycles because that is better for a city. It's less people in cars driving, and so they've been putting these segregated cycle lanes in. Well, all their publicity material was out of date. So there was a thing on Twitter from, Greater Manchester PTE, Transport for Greater Manchester called now, saying that, we're looking for people to come and volunteer for some photo shoot stuff, publicity material for cycling infrastructure in the city. And so I replied, and she also said, one thing we really want is women because they're underrepresented.
Underrepresented.
Yes,
underrepresented is. I could swear that was the first thing you said. Whatever.
Yeah. Because usually it's kind of dangerous on the road, and guys are more likely to take the risks. So tends to be a guy thing almost, commuting by bicycle. So, and of course, in somewhere like the Netherlands, where they've got the segregated cycle lanes, it's equal. Lots of women do, men do, kids do, the whole 9 yards, old people do. So it's like, we want women as well. And I left a thing saying, well, I'm a trans woman, is that okay? Oh, yes, definitely, she says. And so I went and took part, and this is one of the photos.
That is a really nice photo. I love that.
Yeah, and there's even a bit of video, of me explaining about, riding a bike in the city.
That's awesome.
So like I say,
at least some places in the UK, they're nice.
Yeah. Well, again,
you picked a really nice outfit too.
Yeah, it does.
You look good in it.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it comes down to I've embraced who I am.
Yeah.
And when I decided to transition, it was easy for me because, half of my wardrobe was girl stuff already. So all I did was stop wearing the guy stuff. That was it. When I decided to transition, I didn't go through a kind of androgynous phase. I just went right over to the other side. The thing that I had to concentrate on was doing makeup. I had to learn how to do makeup.
Yeah. What I did was I tried to find drag queen stuff for makeup just because my facial hair was obvious and I just really wanted to hide that to the best of my ability. When I did makeup, I did the red thing. Put red a layer of red over my facial hair, and then I did some. I don't know that that's.
I know exactly what you mean. I've got one myself. It's a dark peach color.
Yeah, no, that would have been better.
Yeah, that takes away the blue.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, doing that and doing foundation and then blush and eye work. I mean, I don't know if you can see. I went a little bit silly with the eyeshadow today.
Oh, that's
but,
okay. That yeah, you are good at makeup. I was never good at makeup.
Yeah,
but I mean, to be fair, I wasn't doing makeup is a thing I wasn't doing so much for me. That was more so to try to. I mean, obviously, to a very small extent, it was for me, but it was mostly for other people to not see my facial hair.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also wearing a wig. It's not because I'm bald. You saw me before.
I saw you.
I'm just thin on top, and so it looks about thin and wiry at the moment. I'm hoping when I start taking hormones, one of the side effects is that hair follicle, basically the testosterone causes male pattern baldness, but the hair follicles are still alive. They're just not growing. They're dormant. And once the testosterone stops, because you take testosterone blockers, then and I'll take some finasteride as well, hopefully, and that will encourage the hairs to regrow. I used to have great hair 10 years or so ago.
Yeah, and
it used to be like down here, be to my waist almost.
Yeah, no, I've grown my. Well, I never got that far. I think shoulder blades. The most I went for hair length, but I mean, to be fair, this feels, my hair right now feels too long for me. I need to cut it a little. Yeah, no, it's. There was something I was going to say. I lost my train of thought somehow. Sorry. Just napping and remembering where I was going. So like I mentioned to you off screen, hormone replacement therapy should thicken the overall amount of hair to some degree. Like, it's not like everything, but your hair should end up, in my mind, your hair should end up back closer to where it was, but still also nicer looking. I don't feel like my hair ever looked as nice as it does now. And to some of that is just testosterone in general is mean to hair. Makes hair less pretty. But basically, yeah, I don't know. I get the impression that your hair is going to be super beautiful even without having to use a wig.
Well, from your mouth to my hair follicles. Hopefully that's the way it works. You see, a lot of religious people might go from your mouth to God's ears, kind of thing. It's like, no, I don't need to get,
Skip the middleman.
Exactly. But like I say, when it comes down to it, it was another coping strategy. How do I represent myself now?
Yeah.
And, I had that duality of, where do I fit? I mean, just for an example, you mentioned about makeup, and I don't like drag queens. Now, I don't have a problem with people being drag queens or anything like that. There's this TV show, RuPaul's Drag Race, and it's really popular and stuff like that. And I've had people say, "Oh, do you like that?" And it's like,
No.
and it's frustrating because, and I'm not into football, soccer, okay? I live in Manchester. You got two big cities, Manchester City, Manchester United. So people say you live in Manchester. Oh, which do you like, Manchester City or Manchester United? Well, I don't care. So, but it's frustrating.
Whereas the correct answer would be Manchester United.
Well, no, because both of them annoy me. In fact, Manchester United more so.
I know. I'm just being a brat about it. My mom's a Manchester United fan. My dad's a Liverpool fan, even though they're from America. And because I couldn't choose between my parents, I chose Arsenal.
Okay. The thing about, I just don't like watching other people do sport. That's generally. Although ironically, I watch American football. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. And that's because me and my dad, we didn't really do much together. And in the mid 80s, he was watching American football, and I sort of joined him on the sofa, and he told me some of the rules and stuff like that. And I had to root for one team to win, just because of the hell of it. And the Eagles, Eagles equals America, so it sounded very American. And and it's like, and I liked their uniforms because they were prettier, and that was the only reason why. When I got back into it after going to America a number of times, it's like I just went back to the Eagles. But anyway, I don't want to talk about sport. But
sorry. I was immediately going to delve further into, because you're talking about American football. I'm like, I don't care about American football. But I was born in Wisconsin, and all my relatives go for Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
And so
I must admit, I did like Brett Favre. But anyway, I don't want to talk about football because that's
understandable. We're all also getting close to the end, so we should be wrapping up soon. I will mention once again, obviously, well, there are two things I wanted to mention. One is the disability of Morning Day tomorrow. Go pay attention to that. Just do what you can to support, because that's important. The other thing, it's not important, but I wanted to do it, and I got distracted by other more important aspects of this show.
I do want to mention the drag queen thing in a minute, when whether it's now or whether it's in the next.
we got off of that. Okay,
diverted off it.
I don't like drag queen stuff either, and so
I'll explain why.
Is because there's a lot of So I'll get into that later in a second. I wrote a tiny lament for Peaches, which is the name of the cat who died. A couple days ago, she was put down. Her liver was failing. She was going to die anyways. It's not to any sort of good tune, but like, in terms of being yourself, I also had like a large breakdown about the fact that I care about music, and I tend to avoid anything that I have too much emotional attachment to. So now I'm getting nervous.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, it's not. It's like a simple tune that you learn from basic piano class. But I just wrote a little thing, and it was just peaches, peaches on the chair, softly sleeping ever there, peaceful deep upon our heart, dream of happy worlds to start. Just that's all it is. I just really wanted to put that out there because I wanted
That was
to.
nice.
Yeah.
But yes, fuck the men who have taken over a lot of drag stuff, drag culture. There's a whole culture about like everybody fucking with gender norm stuff, and then there's a lot of men
being a drag queen is
focused
not at all
on men
transitioning.
playing around with the idea of dressing up as a woman. It's how it feels like that has been like the most vocal element of that culture.
That's effectively my problem with drag queens. And again, bear in mind, I don't have a problem with the people. It's more the what it is and what people think. People's perception.
Yes.
Of that bridge between what they are and what I am, because a drag queen is a character that they're putting on. Effectively, they're guys in dresses. I'm not a guy in a dress, okay? They're putting on a character. I'm not putting on a character. This is who I am. My clothes are not a costume. Like them, and so on.
Well,
so,
and
they are, ironically, like I was saying about before, I don't want to pretend to be a woman, if that makes sense. I am one. Yeah. I'm trying to represent who I am on the female spectrum, shall we say, in a way that fits, my personality. And in my Quake case, I'm pretty girly. I mean, I like wearing dresses. I wear the dresses most of the time, although that's mainly because I'm tall, and the difference between a skirt finishing and a blouse starting is only normally, overlap of a couple of inches. Reach up for anything on a shelf, show my tummy. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So it's more practical for dresses for me. Don't want to wear women's trousers because boy bumps, as I call them. So dresses work for me. They say exactly what I want to say about myself, and I look and feel cute in them, and that's all that matters. Yeah. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I spent 18 years putting everybody else's happiness. I'm putting my happiness first, and me wearing dresses is one of them.
Yeah, but, which is what you should do. You should put your happiness and be yourself. That's it. We should wrap up, and Zoom is also 6 minutes away from ending, but we are at the ending point. Laura, where can people find you?
I've got a YouTube channel. Although it's rebranded as Laura, you can't change what it is. So it's if you just type in, youtube.com/cliffjumper24, cliffjumper24, and you'll find my channel very easily.
Yes, and there's also a link to it in the episode description.
Excellent.
As well as I promoted your Twitter. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's great. I do a lot of stuff on Twitter, more on Twitter than I do on videos. I don't make as many videos anymore. But, usually it's because I'm inspired to do something or annoyed at someone being an arsehole. Steve McRae particularly. But, I mean, he was pretty awful. He posted a picture of me as a guy. several months after knowing I was transitioning,
Yeah.
just to save his own, just for his own ego's sake. So yeah, but I tried to get away from that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's me. I'm on Twitter, and my Twitter channel is at now_being_Laura.
Yes. And Perfect. Still Rumpus Room and the Fluid Voice.
Yep. That's my jams.
Okay. And I'm Ozma in the Dark. You can find me in Ozma in the Dark just about everywhere here on the Fluid Voice and Rainbow Shelter News. Shit, there was something I was going to. I feel like there's something I was going to say about. Oh yes, our next guest. Next week's episodes will be next week's episode will be a pre-record where we talk with Katja Odinson about paganism, because obviously there are misconceptions, and I've been an atheist who was born and raised Jewish, and it's hard for me to be harsh on religion for no good reason. I mean, obviously there are specific sects of religions that are bad, but also like, comment, and subscribe, ring that bell, and like I said, if you have guests that you want to talk about, if you have judgment of this or opinions about what we could do better, or opinions at all, please feel free to comment and tell us, because I do read the comments here generally, although there are some people just trying to promote themselves weirdly, and I don't know what to do with those comments. I have the spoons to deal with comments now. There was a brief period of time I wasn't. Also, quick, there's in the episode 60 will be our Colin episode. Also, you can find me on Twitch, basically anywhere. OzmaInTheDark.com is actually the easiest easiest way to find the places that I am the most. And yeah, your voice matters, your life matters, and you matter. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Wait, I pay
Peace.
attention to me. Bye. Yeah.